People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply.
Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening and welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, CEO and founder of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, and award-winning author. And welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have Shaahin Cheyene. Shaahin is the creator of Herbal Ecstacy, the nootropic pill that sparked the 100% legal smart drug movement. Shaahin made millions, but what made it special was that he was only 15 years old at the time. Shaahin was also an early innovator in the vaping world, inventing the industry's first Vapir Vaporizer, as well as hundreds of other multi-million-dollar products. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Shaahin Cheyene. Hey, Shaahin, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it is exciting to have you on and to hear your story. And, after reading your short bio over and over, I'm like, oh my goodness. It's like, can't wait to talk to you. So it's going to be really exciting to, like I said, to hear your story and everything you've accomplished and what you've been doing since then, and of course what you're doing now. So before we get started and diving into all this, just tell the listeners a little bit more about who Shaahin really is.
Who Shaahin really is? Great question. So I started my journey very early in life. When I was just about 15 years old, I left home seeking my fame and fortune. My family were immigrants. We came here from Iran and moved to the United States through Germany. And I remember as a child growing up in a very affluent area that had just been gentrified just after we moved in. So we were poor, growing up with all this wealth around us. And I had a great desire to learn and achieve and to capture wealth. I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted all the things that wealth offered. But being an immigrant and a minority and coming here not even speaking English, I quickly realized that the American dream wasn't as easy as they made out on TV. Mm-hmm. And while I was struggling in school, that there were people who had advantages that I didn't have. I didn't let that stop me, and I decided at 15, hey, school's not for me. I'm going to go seek my fame and fortune. And so I left home. I left my family, my friends, everything, and decided to go out and seek my fame and fortune. And I was a young kid. All I had were some self-help books that were written, just past the turn of the century, those old-timey books like Think and Grow Rich and books by Og Mandino and, those old-time writers. Mm-hmm. Was all I had. And I went out on my own, didn't know what I was going to do, and I started to just sleep in abandoned buildings, in the back seat of an abandoned car, and it was glorious in those days. I felt freedom, but I didn't know what I was going to do. Right. And one day, I was hanging out at the community college because sometimes I could actually grab free eats there in the different lounges. And I came across a guy who became a mentor of mine. His name was Edward Lawson. And what was unbeknownst to me was that he was one of the great and influential people involved in civil rights at his time. Edward was a black man coming up in the 1960s, constantly being harassed by the police. Mm-hmm. And he managed to single-handedly sue the police department in San Diego and then subsequently in New Jersey and take it all the way to the Supreme Court. This is one individual with no experience or formal education in law, was not a lawyer, sued the entire police department, and he won all the way to the Supreme Court. And when I met him, he was doing the Oprah Winfrey show, and he was on all these shows talking about race. This is, of course, well before the Black Lives Matters movement and all of us are seeing now. And Edward agreed to mentor me, and he became a mentor of mine, teaching me about everything he knew about the world and business and life and negotiation and strategy and influence. And I mentored with him for a period of time, and I started hanging around the electronic music scene, the dance scene, which was a big movement in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, during those days, I realized that I could go to the clubs and I could actually fall asleep behind the speakers. It was glorious. You know, the speakers had this droning beat about them, and it was nice and cozy right behind those speakers. So I would go in, I would have a good time. I didn't do any drugs in those days, so zero drug usage by me. And I would just hang out there, and then I'd fall asleep behind a speaker. I'd wake up in the morning, and the party would still be going on, and I would leave. And I realized that I needed to figure out how money was being made in the clubs. And I quickly learned that it wasn't the property owners, it wasn't the DJs, it was the drug dealers. Mm-hmm. And I decided, you know what? I want to be rich, so maybe I should do that. But then I looked back to my adolescence. And during my coming up in elementary school, I took to a life of petty crime. Me and a little Greek kid who I grew up with would go to the liquor store, and he would be so short, you know, he'd get under the sensors, the tech sensors, and we would take nudie magazines, we would take liquor, we would take cigarettes, and we would resell them in school. Now, this was a very lucrative business for two, elementary school-aged students, but we would always get busted. Always. We would always get busted. And I remember thinking, and having this conversation with him, I was like, dude, we're really bad at crime. Like, I'm sure there's something we're good at, but crime is not it. Right. We're always in detention. I don't know what you're doing, but I am no longer going to be doing crime. So at this point, now I'm 15, in the electronic music scene, looking at the drug dealers, thinking back, you know what, this would be awesome. I want to be a cool drug dealer and have, like, the diamonds, the gold, Porsche, all that stuff. But I'm really bad at crime, so I better not do this. So the thought occurred to me, excuse me, the thought occurred to me that, hey, maybe what I should do is create an alternative, something that's legal, that's safe, that's good for people, that they can enjoy, that has no side effects, but that I can't get in trouble for. Right. And that's what I did. I somehow figured out how to do it. I got a girlfriend in those days. She allowed me to cook it up in her kitchen using herbs and natural ingredients while her dad was gone. And Dad would come back. I'd sneak out the window until one night I ended up at a rave. And this was it. We had a formula that worked. I somehow figured out how to make this thing work after months of trial and error. And I had these little pills with me in these little baggies. And I walked up to the biggest drug dealer in the club and I said, hey, man, sell this stuff. And he said, bugger off, kid. What are you, a cop? All that stuff. Right. And I said, no, I'm not a cop. I was determined. I said, sell this. And in that moment, a couple people walked up to him. He realized he was out of product, and he had no options. He sold my product. He sold out that night, thousands and thousands of dollars worth. We got one guy to 10 guys to 100 guys to 1,000 guys. We went completely legit. We were selling in Tower Records, Urban Outfitters, GNC, Larry Flint stores, sex shops, adult shops, music stores, video stores at that time. I don't know if you remember video stores, but we used to have stores where people were going to buy videos. So video stores, all those kinds of places carried our product. Now, I am still a teenager, and the company grew and grew and grew to the point where I had employed everybody in Venice. We had been doing millions and millions of dollars. I had offices in 32 countries. And I barely slept. I slept on the floor of the factory. I slept in the warehouse. I slept at my office, wherever I could. It didn't matter because we were making so much money and making it so quick. And one day, I walk into my office, and the news breaks. I had a secretary in those days, and she told me very carefully, Shaahin, the news media is out here. They're all outside. The news broke that you broke $1 billion in revenue with a B. And I remember thinking to myself, 200 employees, 32 offices in 32 countries all over the world, employees everywhere. Like, I didn't know how much $1 billion was, and I was in a panic. I didn't know how much value $1 billion was. I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
And I was in an absolute panic about that.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. Everybody needs some variety in life. That's what I love about Chumba Casino. They know how to keep things fresh and exciting. All their games are free to play, like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire. You can claim free daily login bonuses, too. And they release new games every week. So spice things up with ChumbaCasino.com now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Recently, a new client called me and started by saying, "Mr. Morgan, I really need your help, but I'm just a nobody." Those words stunned me, and I immediately called him back, and we're now helping him and his family after a terrible accident. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Everybody who comes to our firm at their time of need is a somebody. I grew up poor, but my grandmother was like a queen to us. At Morgan & Morgan, our goal is to level the playing field for you and your family at your time of need. The insurance company has unlimited money and resources. You need a firm who can fight them toe-to-toe. For right at 30 years, we have fought them in courtrooms throughout America. Our results speak for themselves. And always remember this, everybody is a somebody, and nobody is a nobody. Visit forthepeople.com to learn about our firm. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Because I didn't have that level of sophistication. I was too busy making the money to understand it.
Right.
And in those days, that was the way we rolled. And, I had figured out, this is all pre-internet, pre-social media, pre-cell phones, pre-all that stuff.
Exactly.
And then I realized, okay, chill out. I figured out how much it was. And then I went on Nightline with Sam Donaldson. I did Town Hall with Ken Schramm, London Observer, Newsweek, Rolling Stone magazine, multiple times on MTV. And, the product became a global phenomenon. From there, I moved on to inventing most of the technology for vapes and vaporization. So all the vapes and vaporizations you see derived from a technology that we built called digital vaporization, and that company I took public. And from there, I went out to develop smart pills. I figured, we all need to be a little bit smarter, so I invented this pill called Accelerator. It was like a limitless pill, still for sale on Amazon. Really cool pill. And this was in the days where you could get Jeff Bezos on the phone. You could send an email, and Bezos would respond to you. He was not the richest man in the world yet. And I thought, something interesting about this Bezos. Let me take a deeper look. And what I found was that Bezos wasn't your average everyday person.
Right.
He came from a pedigree of Wall Street money. He came from D.H. Hutton, where he was working and had access to hundreds of millions of dollars of cheap money that he was going to bring in and build this e-commerce platform. So I thought, hey, let me list my product on Amazon and see how it goes. And I did. When he opened it up to third-party sellers, people like you and me, to be able to sell anything on there, I woke up the next day to thousands of orders at $120 a piece. And I stopped everything I was doing and thought, this is it. I'm going to learn how to master Amazon, which brings me to where I am now, teaching people how to sell on Amazon and create predictable, recurring revenue every day, every month, and, to be able to retake back your time.
Right.
One of the most valuable things. People often ask me, what is most important to you? And I say freedom. Well, what's that mean? Success.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's that mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
It means being able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, and how I want. So that's all it is. Time is the new luxury. It's all that matters. You can have all the money in the world. If you don't have control over your time, you have nothing. If you are at somebody else's beck and whim, if you are selling your hours for money, you do not have freedom. You are not successful. And that's what I do now. I teach people how to sell on Amazon, how to create these little businesses that turn into big businesses, and then to create these recurring revenue streams.
Wow. All right. Shaahin, you just gave us a ton of information, and I want to backtrack on some of this and dig a little deeper because your story is phenomenal. To come into this country as such a young child and realize that, you want something different. You understand what it means to be a minority. You understand what it means to be poor. You understand that being in America was not as simple as it sounded. Like I said, we see things on TV and everybody thinks that the world is very easy. Well, obviously we know it's not. And to hear that, you made the decision to leave your family behind and move forward to do something that's going to make you rich and do something more beneficial for yourself, not understanding how that was going to work, but you just did it. That's a story right there of its own. So when I hear stories like yours, and, I always try to make people understand that, we have everything we need here in America, but a lot of times we as Americans don't always take the opportunities that are there. We have more excuses than we have than anything else, even though the power is right in front of you. So when you talk about your story, your whole motivation was because you were poor. But when you had the opportunity to learn and watch other people, and you were talking about how you seen, these guys who were selling drugs that looked famous to you, that looked more important to you because they had everything that you didn't have. Was that your biggest part of your inspiration besides just the fact that, hey, I want to be powerful, but to see what you were seeing, that gave you the movement. What else gave you that movement? And, before you even met the gentleman you were talking about earlier, that kind of took you underneath his wing. Talk a little bit about that process and the journey a little bit more in depth. And if somebody was in that moment of where you were at all those years ago, what would you say to them today?
I think a couple key points to keep in mind is that usually in life, when you meet people who have a plan, who seem to be on rails, who seem to know what they're doing, people like Steve Jobs, people like Elon Musk, people like Jeff Bezos, is that these people have had a transformative experience. For example, and they've had mentorship. So Steve Jobs mentored with one of my good friends, Nolan Bushnell. Nolan is the founder of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese's, and he wrote the book Finding the Next Steve Jobs, and he's written the little blurb for my book that's out now called Billion, How I Became King of the Triple Cult. Anybody who's interested, check it out on Amazon. And Nolan was a genius back in those days, older than Steve Jobs, and he hired Steve Jobs and Wozniak to work for him. And it was in his basement that the idea for Apple computers was incubated. And if you look back at the formative years of Steve Jobs, you could see that people, not just Nolan, other people, but people like Nolan were very impactful on him. For me, Edward was my first mentor, and after him, I seeked lots of mentors. I tried to model myself after other people who had achieved success. So looking back at somebody who is, or could be in a similar place to where I was, I don't want to say same because where I was a fairly unique position, is that seeking mentorship, finding counsel in those who've done what you want to do, and utilizing their wisdom, their knowledge, all the years of experience that they have, and modeling them is really invaluable. Outside of that, what you could do is you could create a mastermind. And creating a mastermind is just finding 3 or more people that are in similar, higher, or lower places than yourself and agreeing to get together at a certain time to bring each other up in life. And that's invaluable when you are starting up or anywhere where you are. I do masterminds now with people all the time. Actually, in fact, I have an Amazon course right now where I teach people how to create businesses on Amazon and how you find your product and how you get reviews and do all that stuff. And part of my course is a mastermind where people get to network and continue to have a group mind of people that can help you think. What we do know now is that one brain is better than none, but two brains is better than one. And the more people you have thinking about a problem, the better off you can be. So I encourage people that no matter what you do, you're going to have to either be in a product or a service business, unless you're going to be selling your hours, which is what we want to keep you away from. You'll be in somebody else's product or business, product or service business in that case. But our goal is to get people away from selling their hours for money and instead create more of that freedom and success that we talked about.
Wow. That's profound. And, I like what you just said, and I think that now I'm thinking about what you're saying because I'm sitting here constantly just listening to everything you're saying is very valuable. And it's the thing that stands out to me the most is the fact that, like I said, of building those rapport, building those relationships and being around the mindset, the same mindset. People are going in the same direction, so to speak, because you can't learn from somebody who's not in that realm. And what you have done, and even though when you started out, you were not there yet, you still paid attention to people who were, like you just said, doing more than you were doing. And then you learn from them. And as you're learning now, you're sharing some of these same experiences so like you said, people can have not just not freedom and not just money, but real freedom. Because I think a lot of times when people come into business, the first thought is always about money. It's, they forget about the purpose of what they're doing. And it's just about, I need to make this money. But at the end of the day, that money can also go away because they're missing something. They're not always paying attention to what it is to become successful. And the way that you describe success is completely different than most people's mindset. So as you have had all these opportunities to work with many, people that we hear about every day, but we have never had the opportunity to be as close to them as you have, that experience for you, like I say, you're doing it now, but what made you decide that, hey, I'm just going to drop everything I've done? Because I know that, the vaping thing has been an issue in the past and people don't particularly care for it. They say it's always, something that affects, young people, but you've dropped all those things. You're not doing the pill thing and you got into this. Why did you decide to drop everything you were doing previously and then stuck closer to the Amazon, building the businesses that way?
It can get lonely climbing Mount McKinley, so to entertain myself, I go to ChumbaCasino.com. At Chumba Casino, I can play hundreds of online casino-style games for free, like online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Plus, I get a daily login bonus. It's just too bad that up here, I don't have anyone to share my excitement with. Woohoo! Woohoo!
Live the Chumba life. Anytime, anywhere. Play for free now at ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Recently, a new client called me and started by saying, "Mr. Morgan, I really need your help, but I'm just a nobody." Those words stunned me, and I immediately called him back, and we're now helping him and his family after a terrible accident. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Everybody who comes to our firm at their time of need is a somebody. I grew up poor, but my grandmother was like a queen to us. At Morgan & Morgan, our goal is to level the playing field for you and your family at your time of need. The insurance company has unlimited money and resources. You need a firm who can fight them toe-to-toe. For right at 30 years, we have fought them in courtrooms throughout America. Our results speak for themselves. And always remember this: everybody is a somebody, and nobody is a nobody. Visit forthepeople.com to learn about our firm. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
So the main consideration for getting into Amazon, like I said, was that I did a lot of deep research on Bezos. And I did a lot of deep research on what he was building with Amazon. And then I tested it. Like I said, we put Accelerator on there. Accelerator, a fantastic brain supplement, put it on there. Went to sleep, woke up with thousands of orders at $120 a piece. That's money in the bank. That tells me something I'm doing is right. And I'm a big proponent of this. When you do something and you do it right, step and repeat. Continue to do that stuff. Do more of the things that net you a profit. It shocks me how many times people will do something that's right, and rather than do more of that, they will do something completely different and wonder why it didn't work. It's miraculous when I see people being consistent. It takes patience, it takes discipline, it takes consistency. And again, when you look at people like Elon Musk, like Jeff Bezos, like Steve Jobs, the thing that they had was determination and stick-to-itiveness. They were willing to stick to whatever it was that they wanted to achieve until they made it happen. And that's what you have to be, a great fighter. Israel Adesanya, I'm mispronouncing his name, but he is a African fighter, amazing UFC fighter. And there's a fantastic clip of him in the ring fighting for the championship at UFC. And you see in his face, he's talking to himself. He's talking to his own spirit. And he says, "You're not going to beat me. I'm ready to die." And he means it. You see in his face, this is a young guy in his 20s, fit, and he just had a really rough round with this other fighter, this other contender. And he's saying he is willing to die. It doesn't matter. He's going to win. He will not be defeated. And that is the mentality that you have to have if you want to win in any area of life. Whatever it is you want to achieve, you want to have that beautiful family. You want to have that beautiful spouse. You want to succeed in business, in athletics, in sports, in whatever it is. You have to go out there swinging, and you have to say to yourself, to your greater spirit, to whatever it is, that you will not be defeated. And you are willing to die, figuratively, for whatever it is that you want to achieve. And what happens invariably is that a part of you does die.
Right.
I know that sounds crazy, but the part of you that's weak, the part of you that talks negatively, the part of you that wants to quit when things get rough, that part does die. And when you let that go, you open up the floodgates. And amazing things start to happen. You begin to find yourself at the right place at the right time, and the person who you need in that moment shows up and sits right next to you and says, "Hey, will you start an Amazon business? You know, I don't have time to do it, but I've got $100,000 in my account. I'd love to invest in someone like you." And you're off to the races.
So when you talk about starting an Amazon business, can you give us a little bit of insight of what that really means? Because, you know, like I said, most people only hear the consumer side of it, but when it really talks about getting into the business side of it, I haven't heard a whole lot about it besides the fact unless you're, reviewing it or trying to learn on your own. Just give the listeners just a little bit of insight of what that really means about starting a business on Amazon.
Totally. Yeah, I'd love to. And, I've got a 1-hour course that soup to nuts, A to Z, everything you need to know to start a business selling on Amazon. And it's normally $200 for any of your listeners. I'd like to offer that for free. $0, zero obligation. Please take it, use it. Never contact me again if you don't want to. If you want to learn more, call me. But I just want you to take that and empower yourself. My goal this year is to empower over 1,000 people to start Amazon businesses to change their lifestyle. So let me explain to you how this works. So, and by the way, for you guys who are interested, go to FBAsellercourse.com or ShaahinCheyene.com, ShaahinCheyene.com. Click on the course link and contact me. Let me know you heard it on this podcast, and I will give you that 1-hour course, normally $200, for free, $0. Now, the way Amazon works is that Amazon sells some things themselves. So you want to buy diapers for your kid, you want to buy some cleaning products, whatever, you might buy them from Amazon. What most people don't know is that more than 80 to 90% of the time, you're buying from a third-party seller. Someone like me or you who's decided to start an Amazon business for close to nothing, you don't need a lot of money to do it, and has developed products or is selling other people's products. What you might not know is that everybody with just very basics, bank account, credit card, and a computer can start an Amazon business. You can start a company selling other people's products on Amazon, utilizing their millions and millions of customers, or you can create your own product. And we teach you how to do that in the 1-hour course, but there's lots of ways to do that. If you've ever had a product idea, there has never been a better time to sell on Amazon because you can start a business very inexpensively. And a lot of my students are finding now they're making more selling on Amazon than they are in their 9-to-5 jobs. They're making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month selling products, not even part-time, a couple hours a day working on Amazon because we hire virtual assistants from all over the world to manage and handle their businesses. And they're on vacation. And while they're on vacation, sleeping, having margaritas, they're making money because somebody is buying something that they're selling. Maybe they came out with a better pair of diapers. Maybe they came out with a better kitchen knife. Maybe they came out with a lemon squeezer that's cheaper than the others. But their product is selling. Somebody is buying it. And now Amazon will take that product from their warehouse, they'll pick, pack, and ship it, and they'll send it out to the customer. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Most of the time, I don't even see the products that I sell.
Right.
We sell millions of dollars. And this is my main course of business. This is what I do every day. I come up with great products that people on Amazon need, and we provide it to them at a great price and great quality. And, we've been doing really good with this since 2009, 2010, roughly, something like that.
And that's what I like what you just said, though. You said great products that people need. And I think that's the key word right there is that, people have ideas, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the products are going to be something that people need. So when you're talking about a great product, give us an example of what you think is something that people need, or just give us an example of one of your products that you sell that,
Sure.
is consistent.
Yeah, our brain supplement Accelerator does really well. We have another product called Matcha DNA, matcha green tea, one of the best products out there. Get a 16-ounce tin for, I think, under $30 now. It's the best price anywhere in the world for the quality of matcha that we're offering. It's spectacular. Put it in your smoothies, your drinks. It's great for all kinds of things. Just Google matcha tea, and you'll find the benefits. Or go to Amazon, put in matcha DNA, and you'll see. But that's a product that we've been selling consistently since the early days of Amazon, and people love it. We also make kitchen products. We have sushi knives called Hiroshi sushi knives. We make glasses. We make, you name it, we make it. And we are super excited about it. We make UV lamps now that kill all virus, bacteria, all forms of all that stuff, like 99.99, whatever the claims are that we can make, % of viruses are killed. You put this light in your room, you flip a switch, and, bye-bye viruses and bacteria.
Wow.
Which has been a huge seller during the current pandemic. Yeah, of course, I'm not a doctor. I don't make any claims about how things work. But, we create and sell fun products that people can use that improve people's lives. And in the meanwhile, improve my life by allowing me to have really great vacations with my family. And in the meanwhile, making money.
Exactly. Well, I'm sitting here and I'm like, wow, what you're saying is amazing. And it's, you being the innovator that you are, and then you're sharing this information. And thank you for giving my listeners an opportunity to hear this and have an opportunity to take the course for free, because for some people, $200, it means the world to them, and may not be able to have that. So now they don't have to rob Paul to pay Peter in order to do something that's going to be beneficial for themselves, to get into a business. And I know that in 2020, when a lot of people were shutting their doors, one thing Amazon was not doing was shutting their doors. So talk a little bit about the experience in 2020.
Yeah, well, when there's blood on the street, buy real estate, something one of my mentors told me. And COVID was very unfortunate. A lot of lives lost. A lot of people got sick, and a lot of families were devastated by this. And the pandemic, I think, really showed us how fragile we really are, but still how resilient we can be. And I think that's something that really speaks and resonates with a lot of people. And in fact, as far as COVID goes, Amazon doubled and tripled their sales. So we were riding on the back of that. And for my students selling on Amazon, for our companies who are selling on Amazon, financially, it's been a great year. And of course, we're going to donate some of that money to help people in need right now. And we have been doing that and trying to make sure that we make an impact and a change in the world. And, my wife also runs an Amazon business, and she has a women-owned, women-started minority started a company called Polite Society. If anybody wants to look that up, she makes amazing recipe tins, greeting cards, jewelry, and a portion of her proceeds go to help refugees, women of color, minorities, all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to give back and trying to make an impact where we can, and are just grateful for being so fortunate that during this pandemic, we were able not only to survive, but thrive. And this is really what I want to teach my students. And what we teach every day in Amazon Mastery and FBA Seller Course is that you have to be ready for all possibilities. And once you get your foundation straight, then stuff like this is going to happen. Sure, this is one event, this pandemic, it's terrible. There will be other things. There will be hurricanes and floods and weather, and it's just the way of the world. We live in ups and downs, uncertain times. So the best thing that you can do is to make sure that you have the most certainty in your life. And you do that by building a solid financial backing, especially now with the greatest country in the world, which gives us the most opportunity. People like myself, who's a minority, people like my wife, who are minorities, and we have access to billions of dollars running through the air right now that we can use to build businesses, to strengthen communities, to empower others like us to reach the heights that we have. It's absolutely an incredible time to be alive. And the more prepared we are, the more we think upstream that, hey, you know what? Life is not just a straight line. Life is going to have ups and downs. And we are ready and we are prepared for those ups and downs. You're going to be okay. Doesn't matter what happens.
That's right. Absolutely. Wow. Shaahin, this has been an amazing conversation, and the information that you have provided to the listeners has been phenomenal. And I really, really appreciate your time and that you spent with us this evening, because you just throw out, as I always call it, some pink nuggets instead of the golden nuggets for me. So I'm sitting here flabbergasted just listening to your story and realizing what you have accomplished. And, you know, it always has a proven that it's not about where you come from, it's where you're headed to. And, you know, your spirit and what you're doing for other people is just, like I said, amazing. And I absolutely appreciate you so much. And before we end this evening, could you please tell the listeners how they can reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a podcast called Hack and Grow Rich. Anybody that's interested, make sure to check us out on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere podcasts are found. Also, we also have my book, which is coming out. It should be out by the time you're listening to this. It is called Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. If you want just the first chapter, go ahead and get that on Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere where podcasts are found. Alternatively, you can go ahead and get me at ShaahinCheyene.com or at FBASellerCourse.com, and those notes are there.
All right. Well, again, it has been such a pleasure talking with you this evening, and thank you so much for all of your knowledge and information that you share with my listeners. I just, like I said, I'm just ecstatic, and I cannot wait for those listeners to really hone into this and learn something and realize that anything is possible as long as you're willing to put the time, the effort, and the work, and have the right mindset. And for those who are on that edge and they need that little bit of help, we'll get you over that edge. So, you know, I hope that you learn what it means about being the first. And I hope that you realize that you can be the first within your own family to reach your dreams. And if you want to chat about that, you can reach out to me at any time at Kimberly at WSBILC@gmail.com. And of course, if we want to get connected to Shaahin, we can get that done for you. And, you know, because it's time for you to turn those dreams into actual goals and keep them moving in your life. And of course, if you want more of your resource for success, please continue to support the podcast. We do have a Cash App that's available, which that'll be in the information below. And as well, you can just go directly to www.wsbilc.com, which is the website. And again, we would like to thank you all for listening to us tonight. We will be back next week with more amazing guests. Be sure to follow us right here on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcast. But until then, enjoy the rest of your evening and good night.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, honored
We will
to
be
be on.
back
Thank
next
you so much
Thursday
for having
evening
me.
at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker,
Hey, will you make sure to send me a link to this?
www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Terms and conditions apply.